There is a question from All Urban Hip Hop News. CNN said Biden won't remove the suspension. Yes, there is that news. And that is a very confusing part. And I even open here, I can open CNN here. The confusion is, what happened is, there are three types of things happening related to suspension. Number one is a travel ban. The travel ban of the 13 countries, which people refer in them as what we call we refer them as Muslim ban. That one is going to be removed tomorrow. It's going to be removed on January 20. After President Biden sworn in as the president, the first business of the day will be to remove or to reverse the travel ban. The 13 countries, what we call Muslim travel ban, kind of that, they're going to be removed. That is including Tanzania, Sudan, including Somalia, including Nigeria and other countries on the travel ban. That is number one. Then there are two things on the suspension. There is suspension of all countries in the world to especially on certain types of visas. And this is referring to the suspension of travel of people to come to America, which was on April 22nd, expanded on June 24th, then in end of December. That suspension is referring to H1 visa. That suspension is referring to J visa, J1, whatever, and L visa, and some of other visas, and also immigrant visas. That is, we do not know the status of that at the moment, because Biden is quiet about that. The confusion now is what about the suspension based on the CDC recommendation. There are Schengen visa. There are visa people are supposed to come from Europe, for instance. President Trump, today is his last day. He's planning to remove those suspension. The Schengen people from Europe were also on the ban. People from Brazil also were banned to come to America during the pandemic because their countries, they were in a very high situation of cases of COVID. So there are three types of suspension. There is suspension because of the medical health guidelines from the CDC. And Trump did that one to stop visas, especially most from Europe. That one, Trump is planning to remove, but Biden said he's going to return that one. So don't confuse that one versus the immigration suspension basing on job, because the immigration suspension, why you don't have the green card lottery visas interviewers at the moment, is because he said if we bring you here, you are going to offer competition, job competition. But up to this moment, already there is another requirement. In order to come to America, it doesn't matter whether you're an American citizen, whether you're a green card holder, whether you're a student. In order to travel to arrive in the US land, you must be tested and you have negative tests. That is a new requirement from the CDC, and the Trump administration has done that. That will continue to be there even under Biden. And Biden will continue to have the travel restrictions for people from Europe. But he hasn't said anything at the moment for the he hasn't said anything at the moment for what I call he hasn't said anything about what I can simply say. He hasn't said anything about the suspension based on the requirement that if you come here as immigrant, you are going to cause trouble, like you are going to take our jobs. So that doesn't happen, because the big tech companies which paid a lot of money to Joe Biden are the one employing a lot of immigrants, especially in the tech. If you go to Silicon Valley, Facebook, Twitter, or go to all the tech companies in Silicon Valley, in San Francisco area, depend much on H1B visa. They paid for campaign, so obviously they have to get something. So that will not happen. So don't confuse between which one is going to be part of it. If I can read what they are talking about is President Trump wants to lift Corona coronavirus travel restriction for Europe, the UK, Ireland, and Brazil effective on January 26. But this incoming administration won't let that happen. Biden's spokesperson says, on the advice of our medical team, they are not going to continue. They are going to put that restriction. So the restriction Biden or the CNN, Associated Press, they are talking about is the suspension of restriction of the travel from Europe, Ireland, UK, and Brazil, which is already part of that one. That one is different from the suspension of everybody as long as you are supposed to come here under H1 visa, as coming under some J1 visa, L visa, and immigrant visas. That is different from what Trump did on April, on June, December. That means they extended for until end of March. So that is the difference. So don't confuse between which suspension are we talking about. So the one Biden is rejecting to lift is the one about the suspension for Europe and other countries.